Look at me do it here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built my BaronsWarTable, starting from the table itself to the mat, all the way up to all the terrain pieces that are going to participate in playing my first battle. Follow me into the game room, and I'm going to show you the table right now. So here we are in my gaming room, and as you can see, probably it's a very narrow room, which is why in the previous iteration of the channel he was called the Narrows. Um, it's a reference to one of my favorite places in Zion National Park. So for that reason, this table, which is a table topper actually from Table Toppers, is sitting on top of an antique table, and it's 6 by 3, which many games call for a 4 by 6. I don't have that, and quite frankly, it doesn't really matter because I'm interested in skirmishes, and 6 by 3 is fine. What I want to attract your attention to is that I have put those little stickers on the table, and they're not random. Those are to mark the 1 foot delineation of the table. And what that allows me to do is that when I create a grid on paper, or even visually on the table, that allows me to see where the different elements of my battlefield are going to be. So if I create a grid that represents a 1 foot by 1 foot squares, I can replicate this grid exactly or almost on the table based upon those stickers, because I can draw an imaginary line between them and see that the terrain feature is going to be where it's supposed to be. Now, as for the mat, it's one of the default mat that came with the table topper. It's good enough for now. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to keep it as is. There are probably more beautiful mats out there, but this one will do for now. So that is it. I wanted to show you how I delineate my grid on the tabletop, and next we'll start putting some elements on it. So here you look at a very simple sketch of what the board is going to look like. I just jot it down. You don't have to be very precise, but you see that I have the placement of the river, I have the placement of the trees, and I have the general placement of the road and of different buildings. So I suggest this is how you start for your board. That way, you can represent what you see here and modify it with the different elements that you have on the board, but keep the general layout. So as you look at the grid we designed for our table as a preparatory step, you can see that I chose to add a river, and I want the river to be about halfway through the table so as to operate a separation between the two areas of the table. One is going to be wooded with the river marking the border of it, and the other one is going to be the village. And I have printed and painted a modular river set. This one, I believe, is from Printable Scenery, which I strongly encourage you to go visit. They have amazingly good models that you can print for just about any area of wargaming. And this modular river, it's not the best painted one, but I think it gives an efficient look to the table. It's good enough for what I want to do. I can design a river that is up to, I think, 4 feet wide. This one is 3 feet, of course, because my table, as we have talked about before, is only 3 feet wide. And I chose to put a bridge in the center so as to create a choke point and to allow the troops to cross over, of course. Otherwise, I will consider the rest of the river to be an impassable terrain. So this goes to saying that when I design a table, I like to start with the natural elements, the rivers, the hills. Of course, right now I don't have a lot of hills, so you won't see a lot of them. It will come later. and the forests. Um, and when this is down, when I've put them on the map, then I decide where the human-made um, items are, such as the bridge in that particular case, and it's going to be the village, and of course it's going to be the roads. So now we have a river. Next, we're going to place some woodland. So let's take a closer look at part of the modular river I just showed you. This river is it comes from printable scenery, which is a 3D file provider that I absolutely adore because of the quality and the diversity of the models. I picked it, out of a lineup of different rivers I had access to. Um, it probably not is the best one, but I like the look of it, and it's very, very flexible for what I need to do now. So, just a quick, uh, you know, quick summary on how I painted it. Uh, this was actually primed dark brown with a camo dark brown, which is very flat. And then I proceeded towards painting the banks, which essentially is a progressive dry brushing of lighter and lighter brown uh, with a specific, almost like a burlap or a sand color dry brush for the rocks, for the small rocks, while the larger one were painted gray and were actually dry brush with a lighter gray. And of course, the vegetation, same thing, painted with the dark green dry brush with one or two layers of progressively lighter greens. Now, the water, it's the way I did it. Is I initially painted the center dark blue, and with progressive, layers of lighter blue toward the edges, going toward very light blue, almost white on the edge. And of course, if you do this, fast enough and the paint is still wet, that gives you the opportunity to kind of wet blend between the different bands. So it gives it a bit more realistic aspect. After this was done, what I did is that I shellacked. Actually, I didn't shellac. I Mod Podged, my apology, the water. Let it dry, and I applied some scenic water effect around the rocks. This dries actually transparent, which I didn't expect. I don't know why, but I did expect it to dry kind of whitish, which it doesn't. So I went over this and I actually applied some white dry brush paint along with trailing before the rocks, so as to give it the water effect. I am aware that not the water effects are pointing the same way among the different tiles. Doesn't matter. This is, to me, this is a very generic um, and just a flexible way to portray a river. I'm not doing for a diorama. So yes, if I was painting a diorama, I would actually pay attention to the water flowing the exact same way all the time. In this case, if it looks good enough to be semi-realistic, I'm happy. So that's how I did the river. Now you see that we have added the road. Now, I know a lot of people are not very fond of this particular model. This is I think it's a forest road from printable scenery. I personally really like it. I like its texture. I like its modularity. I think it offers a lot. And yes, it's not continual. The As you can see, the different parts of the road do not, go flush against each other. But I think that fits the whole concept of forest road. Yes, there are some tracks that could be attributed to um, some carriages. It doesn't matter. I kind of like it. This is a first road terrain I have ever printed and painted. And as I mentioned in my intro, this is to build a modular table. So it's not going to be as beautiful as the permanent one that you see online. However, I can dismantle this, put it in boxes, bring it to the club, to the store, or on this table, and change the configuration as I wish in a very, very short period of time. And by the way, some people will probably notice that the trees may not be the right species, because this is supposed to represent a 12th, 13th century England. Um, Quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me. I have those trees. I think that they fit the look I want for them. You can probably find the exact species of trees fitting the region online. Again, this is for a modular table. I don't have an infinite amount of space. Therefore, I will use the trees I have for whatever war game I need to portray that is set up in the region of Europe that I want to play in. In that case, England, but I'll probably use the same tree for anywhere else in Europe or in the US. So next, we are going to start placing the village, because this is where a lot of the objectives probably in our games are going to be. Take a look at the road. So some people don't like that road. Okay, it's coming from printable scenery. Um, I like it because it's it is a more rural road. I don't like the roads to be paved for my countryside. This can be applied to the woods. This can be applied to um, the countryside. If I and when, not if and when, I'm going to do some more urban terrain, let's say a medieval town or such, I will print some paved road. But this one is from my countryside for the woods, and so it is not flush when you put it on the table. But this is something I like about it. Also, people have been saying, well, why do we have some marking for cartwheels along the road? It doesn't really bother me. Yeah, is it realistic? Totally no, but who cares? um, the way I painted it, similar to the river, primed matte dark brown and progressive layers of lighter dry brushing of browns until very very light, kind of a sand color toward the top, and insisting upon the little rocks. Why didn't I put some vegetation and tufts on it? Because it makes it easier to store. That pretty much it. And I would assume that around it, on the table, there will be some trees and bushes and walls. Therefore, it doesn't really matter if there is no tufts on the road proper. So that was for the road. Now you see we have placed the elements of the village. Um, this is a little bit different and more expensive than what I initially thought about in the drawing of the map. As you see, I placed one of the huts there, and I expanded the village on both sides of the road. Um, and I also modify the configuration of the road to fit the elements I wanted to place in. So we have a hut, we have two houses here. Um, we have a church. This is a granary, of course, the cross for the village. This is an enclosed field, and here we have another house with a well. And I, intersperse a little bit of wall. I always encourage you to add some wall to your terrain because it's an impediment to movement, and that is important to prevent some unit to be able to continue charging forward. Uh, so it has a little bit of a tactical element to the game. So that is the table we have for this first game. Of course, because I try to make it modular, um, I can create a whole lot of different tables. I can create a larger village. I can put a castle in, which I will show you later. I can not have a bridge, but have a fordable river. I can add a mill on the river, which I have also for a printable scenery. So there are lots of things that you can do. The advantage of having a modular table such as this one is that I am not stuck with one configuration. I can design it which way fits my fancy or the scenario I'm going to play. And really, it's very easy to set up and to put back into boxes. So I wanted to share something with you because after I finished filming the video, I realized that I would rather have the table toward the back of the gaming table and leave the front free for, rolls, dice, and what so. So I moved everything back, which is still 4 by 3 by all means, right? But what I realized is that the village was a bit cramped, and I wanted a lot of the action to take place in this village. So what I did, I put the river, the delineation of the first 1 foot band um, of the gaming space. And I elongated the road toward the back. Therefore, the village has now more room, as you can see, to maneuver. He's probably going to create some conflict a little bit earlier in the game, because now the bridge, which is a choke point, is going to be at the very entrance of the village. Therefore, there will be probably an incentive for the defender to reach the bridge as soon as he can. Um, but he will also give more space to maneuver within the village itself. And as you see, the only thing that kind of I'm not comfortable with quite right now is that there is no line of sight blockage in the center. So I guess what we can do is actually play a couple of games, see how it goes, and change it as a need be. Now, let's talk about the walls. First of all, I strongly encourage you to print or design or build a fairly large series of walls, low walls, high walls, broken walls for your table, because you can use them in plethora of environments and periods. Of course, this is going to be used for the Barons War right now, but you can definitely use it for fantasy. I can use it for even modern time, for World War II, for World War One, because those walls hardly change over time. So print some walls, print some curved walls, some corner walls. This is a straight one, but print walls with barriers in them, with little gates. It doesn't matter, but just print them because they will always be useful on your table. Now, how do I paint those walls? So I will go over it quick, later when I approach some buildings and I show you what I've printed and painted as far as buildings. But I have a formula. I'm not saying it is best, but my formula keeps me, grounded and going, because painting walls is not exactly fun. After the second one, you're like yawning. But it also it keeps a uniform look to whatever I paint for this table, which is a goal. So I prime everything black, flat black, and then I dry brush a medium gray on it. Um, Actually, I never, well, almost never use hobby paint um, for painting trade because it costs too much money. I don't have that kind of money, so I use craft paint. Americana is usually what I have those days because it's available to me close by. And so dry brush, medium gray, and then with a regular brush, I would definitely suggest you spot some of the stones, not all of them, of course. Some of the stones you spot them using dark brown. In this case, I used chocolate and cocoa. uh, Quite frankly, use whatever color you want, just to give some diversity to the color of the stones. Right? You see, some of them are lighter than others. Some of them have different colors, and it will look odd when you first do it, but everything will be united later with the later steps. So after that, you I would actually suggest you create a wash. So again, don't use the hobby washes because that's a bit pricey for terrain. If you paint a big building, it's going to cost you a fortune in agrax of shade or non-oil. So create your own wash. There are some great videos to do this online. It's basically washing liquid, um, medium, and paint. Again, I use craft paint because cost. So go online, find yourself a wash formula, get a large dropper bottle that will make life easier for you, and apply it all over. When the wash is dry, of course, let it dry, otherwise it's gonna mess everything up. You go with a dry brush of, you know, I use burlap for most of the wall, and go light. I mean, less is more. And on the very, very top where the light is most reflected, or in different patches to add diversity, I actually use bleach sand. Okay, again, those are colors from Americana. Think of it a lighter shade of brown. Okay, so that will actually unify your entire wall. So you can leave it there because that's fine. That's good enough. If you want, you can put a second coat of your custom, cheap wash. I would suggest using, brown in that case, but you can use black if you want to, or even like dark green. That will work too. That would, if your wall is very exposed to humidity, dark green would actually work. At this stage, what you could do is also use some green wash. And again, I would suggest doing your own because they get in cost. And green wash some part of the wall to show some humidity. All right. And really at that point, your wall is pretty much done. Now, I do some other steps because I think they're fun. So I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, you can see it. See the little white dots? I'm gonna try to do it that way. All right, let's turn it. We good. Where are my little white dots? I just saw them. Oh yeah, right here. So there are some dots here in this area. There are some dots here. Those I used to simulate some kind of lichen, and the way I do it, I apply some white paint or light green paint to a toothbrush. Now, again, less is more. You don't want to just you want to look like some modern painting. Um, and then you pull out the bristle with your thumb and you let it go forward, and it actually drips some little white dots or little light green dots all over the wall. That to me is a good simulation of a lichen. Probably not the best one, but that's the one I like. And finally, what I do is that I use some PVA glue, and I use some very fine dark green flocking, and I apply it in different areas of the wall. Not everywhere, of course, you don't want to be a uniform patch, but different parts of the wall I apply this particular flocking. And I press it down with my finger a little bit so that it stays. And when I think it is dry, which about a half hour, 1 hour, I lightly with a light brush, I brush it over, put it back in the bin with what is falling because that saves some flocking, and then your wall is ready. Um, so that is a method I use for, I would say, most, if not all, the stone buildings, because that way they will look kind of uniform. Well, that is my initial table for the Barons War. I hope you enjoyed it and that it will be useful to you. In a future video, I will focus upon some of the buildings that you saw in the village, along with some other new buildings that you haven't seen yet that I've already painted, um, and that will come to supplement the one that you already saw, so as to create a very, very modular and very varied table that would fit the need of different scenarios for the game. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and until next time, stay shiny.